If you don't mind, we're just gonna go around and say names. We have a new person, so I just figured that would be the best course of action. I'm Rochelle. I hope you all know me by now. Would you mind going ahead?
Hey, Raquel.
Not the weirdest thing I've been called.
I'm Molly.
Natasha.
Marcia.
Tracy. Vicky. Sarah. Lois. Wanda. Denise.
Diane.
Lindsay.
Awesome, thank you. So we are at the end, nearing the end of Joshua. We are going to be covering chapters 20 to 22. So I'm going to be kind of going through it a little differently than I've been doing for the rest of the book, simply because we're covering 3 chapters tonight. So I'm going to have us do some reading from each of these chapters. If we can start, we're going to read all of chapter 20. It's only 9 verses, so I think we'll make it. Okay, for the math I had to get 12 times 4.
48.
48?
No.
Yeah?
Yeah,
48. Yeah? Okay, that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Yeah, it just came too fast and easy. I was like,
Well, because that was 5 to 60, right?
yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You got it.
I was getting there on my own. Wanted it away. All right, so what we'll do is all of chapter 20, I have some verses selected in 21, and then all of chapter 22, and it's 54 verses total that I've selected, so we're going to divvy it up by 4 per person, and I'll take the remainder. I hope I did my math right.
I hope all of the hard words are right.
All right, Molly, you want to start us?
Mhm.
Sorry, you're chewing. Do you want us to start the other way around?
No, we're good. Verse 21 through 4, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Then the Lord said to Joshua, say to the people of Israel, appoint the cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the manslayer who strikes any person without intent or unknowingly may flee there. They shall be for you a refuge from the avenger of blood. He shall flee to one of these cities and shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city and explain his case to the elders of that city. Then they shall take him into the city and give him a place, and he shall remain with them.
What do you want me to retell?
5 to 9, please.
Okay. Then if the avenger of blood pursues him, they shall not deliver the slayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unintentionally, but did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then the slayer may return and come to his own city and his own house, to the city from which he fled. So they appointed Kadesh and Galilee in the mountains of Nam. I don't know how to say that.
That's okay.
In the mountains of Ephraim and, oh, I got all the hard words.
Hebron. Let's just
Hebron.
Just Hebron.
In the mountains of Judah, and on the other side of the Jordan, by Jericho, eastward, they assigned Bezar in the wilderness of the plain from the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead, from the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan, from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed. Oh wait, do I stop there?
No, you
Or
can
do you
read
put
that
it
down. Yeah, thank you.
Appointed for all the children of Israel and for the stranger who dwelt among them, that whoever killed a person accidentally might flee there, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood until he stood before the congregation.
First time here, here's all the hard words possible.
You passed.
None of us can do it better. There was one time I think I've told some of you this, that I have a software and it allows me to hear pronunciations of places. And it's the most guttural, like there's spitting involved and I don't even know. And I'm like, forget that. I'm gonna say it the way I want to say it. Okay, so for 21, if we can read 1 through 8. So Marcia, you have the first 4 verses. Tracy, you would read till 8.
Okay.
And then Vicky, if you could read 43 to 45. And then starting with Sarah, we're going to do chapter 22 and just split that up by 4 verses until it reaches me and I'll take
Great, I
that.
don't see too many bad words.
All right.
All of those.
You lucked out.
I find in Psalm 43.
You ready?
Yes, please, thank you.
The Levi family heads approached the priest Eleazar, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribes. Oh, that's the complete sentence. At Shiloh in the land of Canaan, they told them, the Lord commanded through Moses that we be given cities to live in, with their pasture lands for our livestock. So the Israelites, by the Lord's command, gave the Levites these cities with their pasture lands from their inheritance. The lot came out for the Kohathite clans. The Levites, who were the descendants of the priest Aaron, received 13 cities by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The remaining descendants of Kohath received 10 cities by lot from the clans of the tribes of Ephraim, Dan, and half the tribe of Manasseh.
The descendants of Gershon were allotted 13 towns from the clans of the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and half the tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. The descendants of Merari, clan by clan, received 12 towns from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. So the Israelites allotted to the Levites these towns and their pasture lands, as the Lord had commanded through Moses.
Okay. So the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their forefathers, and they took possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their forefathers. Not one of their enemies withstood them. The Lord handed all their enemies over to them. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to the house of the Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled.
Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh and said to them, you have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have listened to my voice in all that I have commanded you. You have not forsaken your brothers these many days to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brothers as he spoke to them. Therefore turn now and go to your tents, to the land of your possession, which Moses the servant of the Lord gave you beyond the Jordan.
And I don't know where we are. 55. 55. We'll stop there. But be very careful to keep the commandments and the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to obey his commands, to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul. Then Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their homes. To the half-tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given land in Bashan, and to the other half of the tribe, Joshua gave land on the west of the Jordan with their brothers. When Joshua sent them home, he blessed them, saying, return to your homes with your silver, gold, bronze, and iron, and with a great quantity of clothing. And divide with your brothers the plunder from your enemies,
So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh left the Israelites at Shiloh in Canaan to return to Gilead, of their own land, which they had acquired in accordance with the command of the Lord through Moses. And they came to Gilead near the Jordan, in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built them a golden altar there by the Jordan. And when the Israelites heard that they had built the altar on the border of Canaan at Gilead, near the Jordan, on the Israelite side, the whole assembly of Israel gathered at Shiloh to go to war against them.
First, however, they sent a delegation led by Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, to talk with the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. In this delegation were 10 leaders of Israel, one from each of the 10 tribes, and each the head of his family within the clans of Israel. When they arrived in the land of Gilead, they said to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, "The whole community of the Lord demands to know why you are betraying the God of Israel. How could you turn away from the Lord and build an altar for yourselves in rebellion against him?"
Was not the sin of Peor enough for us? Up to this very day, we have not cleansed ourselves from that sin, even though a plague fell on the community of the Lord. And are you now turning away from the Lord? If you rebel against the Lord today, tomorrow he will be angry with the whole community of Israel. If the land you possess is defiled, come over to the Lord's land, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and share the land with us. But do not rebel against the Lord or against us by building an altar for yourselves, other than the altar of the Lord our God. When Achan, son of Zerah, was unfaithful in regard to the devoted things, did not wrath come on the whole community of Israel? He was not the only one who died for his sins.
Then the people of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh answered the heads of the clans of Israel, "The Lord, the mighty one, is God. The Lord, the mighty one, is God. He knows the truth, and may Israel know it too. We have not built the altar in treacherous rebellion against the Lord. If we have done so, do not spare our lives this day. If we have built an altar for ourselves to turn away from the Lord, or to offer burnt offerings, or grain offerings, or peace offerings, may the Lord himself punish us. The truth is, we have built this altar because we fear that in the future your descendants will say to ours, 'What right do you have to worship the Lord, the God of Israel?' The Lord has placed the Jordan River as a barrier between our people and you people of Reuben and Gad. You have no claim to the Lord. So your descendants may prevent our descendants from worshiping the Lord. So we decided to build the altar not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but as a memorial. It will remind our descendants and your descendants that we too have the right to worship the Lord at his sanctuary with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and peace offerings. Then your descendants will not be able to say to ours, 'You have no claim to the Lord.' If they say this, our descendants can reply, 'Look at this copy of the Lord's altar that our ancestors made. Is it not for burnt offerings or sacrifices? It is a reminder of the relationship both of us have with the Lord.'" 29. Thank you. Sorry, I just kept rambling.
Yeah, that's all right, you saved me.
I was like, that's a lot to read.
Far be it from us that we should rebel against the Lord and turn away from following the Lord this day by building an altar for burnt offering, for grain offering, or for sacrifice, besides the altar of the Lord our God, which is before his tabernacle. So when Phinehas the priest and the leaders of the congregation, even the heads of the families of Israel who were with him, heard the words which the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the sons of Manasseh spoke, it pleased them. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, said to the sons of Reuben and to the sons of Gad and to the sons of Manasseh, "Today we know that the Lord is in our midst, because you have not committed this unfaithful act against the Lord. Now you have delivered the sons of Israel from the hand of the Lord." Then Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, and the leaders returned from the sons of Reuben and from the sons of Gad, from the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan, to the sons of Israel, and brought them back word to them. The word pleased the sons of Israel, and the sons of Israel blessed God, and they did not speak of going up against them in war to destroy the land in which the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad were living. The sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad called the altar witness, for they said, it is a witness between us that the Lord is God. Whew, thank you for doing all of that. Okay, so starting in chapter 20, first thing that we see is these refuge cities, these cities of refuge. And in verse 2, we find, it says that, that God designated these cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses. So they're first introduced to Israel through Moses. If we can turn to Exodus 21, that's where we first see this. Okay, Exodus 21, 12 to 14. This is part of the law that God is giving to Israel at Mount Sinai through Moses. And so it says, 21, verse 12 to 14, he who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint you a place to which he may flee. If, however, a man acts presumptuously toward his neighbor so as to kill him craftily, you are to take him even from my altar that he might die. So even in this, God is recognizing not all killings are murder. There's accidental. And so he's making a provision for that. Before the people had even reached the promised land, God's already got a provision in place for his people. Numbers 35, if we can turn there, that's the next place that we see this pop up. All right, this is God speaking to Moses again. Really this whole chapter, I'm not going to read any part of it, but this whole chapter deals with cities for the Levites, and then specifically the cities of refuge. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to look at, what verse was that? I'm trying to remember what verse that was in. There's a verse where it talks about how the congregation is actually involved in this, which I thought was kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here we go, verse 24. So it's talked about how if, this person accidentally killed someone, then it says, then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the blood avenger according to these ordinances. The congregation shall deliver the manslayer from the hand of the blood avenger, and the congregation shall restore him to his city of refuge to which he fled, and he shall live in it until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the holy oil. So I think that's kind of interesting how the congregation's involved in this. It's not just like, well, you're on your own, see ya, hope you make it. It's the congregation is also part of this process of securing safety for this person. Something I noted from one of my commentaries is that according to Jewish tradition, the roads leading to these cities were kept in excellent condition, and the crossroads were well marked with signposts reading refuge, refuge, and then there were runners that were stationed along the way to guide this person to the city of refuge. That's Jewish tradition, but I think that's pretty cool. And we do see that the congregation is involved in this, so I think that's pretty neat. Deuteronomy 4 is the next time that we see this pop up. And just as a reminder, because it's been a little bit since we've talked about cities of refuge, the person who accidentally killed is supposed to flee to the city of refuge. They're supposed to present their case there as to whether or not they really are, actually did do the killing accidentally. And if it's deemed, yes, then they stay at that city of refuge until the death of the high priest. And then at that point, then they can return to their family. But if they leave that city of refuge at any time before the death of the high priest, then the Avenger of Blood, which we'll get to in a minute, is fully capable of enacting their justice on that person.
Could be a long time.
It could be a long time. It could be past that person's lifetime. I haven't been able to find a solid answer as to why, why that. There's been a few conjectures, and I haven't found anything solid enough to really present, so.
Would it be, this is just what I'm thinking,
Right.
totally off the top of my head, would it be because that's the person who heard it and pronounced freedom, and if somebody else had moved into it, there could be question by who knows who as to whether that is actually what happened, because that person's gone?
Maybe.
It seems like it's somehow for a safety for that person,
Right.
not just
It's put in place for a reason,
not
it's,
a punishment. You have to
No.
stay here until
right.
then, and then they're hoping and praying for the high priest to die. I want to go home.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what that reason is. So, but yeah, good idea though.
Do you think that the family could go and be with the one who
That's what I've
accidentally
wondered.
killed someone?
That's what I've wondered, but I don't know, that would be, moving your family is a lot different than it would be now, They didn't have U-Hauls.
Well, the family seems so much more extended than we are. Like, I would picture, okay, well, that's me and the boys, we'll go along.
Right.
And this might be,
Right.
Wives and
Animals.
6,000
Animals,
sheep.
exactly.
In-laws,
What if the
outlaws.
city of refuge isn't within your tribe land?
Oh, because if the thing happened in a different tribe,
Mhm.
they'd have to go to that area's city of refuge.
I'm gonna hopefully do my best to help you with the map to find these cities of refuge. I was gonna do a little TV thing, and then I didn't bring a part that I needed for it. Here, real quick, we'll read Deuteronomy 4. This is the last time that we see this pop up before Joshua, and it's Moses. He's designating the cities of refuge on the east side of the river. Because remember, they conquered that area first before moving into the rest of Canaan on the west side, and so he already designated the cities of refuge on the east side of the river. So 41 to 43 are the verses we're looking at. Deuteronomy 4, verses 41 to 43. Then Moses set apart 3 cities across the Jordan to the east, that a manslayer might flee there, who unintentionally slew his neighbor without having enmity toward him in time past, and by fleeing to one of these cities he might live. These are in the wilderness on the plateau for the Reubenites, and Ramoth and Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan and Bashan for the Manassites.
So you had a specific city you had to flee to?
It sounds like it would be the closest one to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like it must happen quite often.
I guess, and what's interesting is Moses did that right away. He didn't wait for the rest of the land to be conquered, and then Joshua can designate it. He designated that as soon as some land was conquered.
So this is like a common thing.
In Numbers 35, was it? Where not 35. Yeah, 35. Where it talks about it more, it actually has descriptions of examples laid out. And verse 16, but if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer. If he struck him down with a stone so that he would die, as a result of his death, he is a murderer. So you've got all these examples of murder, but then you've got, this is struck him with his hand an enemy, but if he pushed him suddenly without enmity, this is verse 22, or threw something at him without lying in wait, or with any deadly object of stone, and without seeing it, dropped on him so that he died, while he was not his enemy, nor seeking his injury. So those are all examples of like what it looks like to be premeditating murder, and then an example of, you know, accident. So
Or like even self-defense, would some of that be even too?
maybe, I don't know about that.
Like if someone's coming at you, do you let them kill you?
That's a good
Threw something at him without lying in wait?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
is a-
why would you throw something? if-
Yeah, unless you're trying to defend yourself.
Well, it would be like I'm hauling stones and I'm just tossing the stones like this,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize that a person was walking right there or something,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Or like in Prince of Egypt when Moses, or, was it Moses that accidentally killed the Egyptian man?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, yes.
Definitely a movie, but.
Exactly like that.
Definitely a movie.
I'm trying to think of, I feel like this is a video, but I don't know what video it was. Somebody was like, you know, chopping with an axe, and the like head just went flying off the hand, and like
sure.
bunk, you know. Just a little bump.
A lot of freak accidents happening.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can find these cities for you. So Kadesh is up here in Naphtali region. Then you have Golan. Where are you, Golan? You are not on my map. Actually, I don't think it is. Because Golan is supposed to be. Oh, okay, here's Ramoth. Golan is supposed to be here.
Over there.
Yep, yep. Then Bezer. Well, Bezer's supposed to be down in Reuben's area. So, there. And then Shechem is over in West Manasseh over here. Right? Yeah, I had a hard time with the maps. Let me just tell you that much. But anyway. Hebron, we know Hebron is here.
Shechem in the middle of, on the line between Ephraim and
Ooh,
Manasseh.
yeah, here. Good eyes. So, pretty spread out. Kadesh, Golan, Ramoth.
How would they be protected from walking, like, to the city of refuge?
Yeah.
So you just have to hope that,
Are you literally on the run?
Mm-hmm.
like, it happened, you're out of there.
Yeah.
You're
You just
running
go.
to the city of refuge.
Mm-hmm.
And then you explain it all when you get there.
That's the whole point of a city of refuge. If there was some sort of protection outside of that, you wouldn't need that. You are running towards that, yeah.
You might be being chased.
You might, depending on circumstances.
Well, people are gonna have two different views of whether it was an accident or
Yeah.
on purpose.
And there is, I believe in Exodus, around that same area we were reading, where God is saying, you know, make sure that you're asking lots of questions and that you're finding out whether this was premeditated or not. You know, no assumptions or anything like that. Really dig into it and see what's going on, what
They're
happened.
not hearing the other side though? They're just hearing the one who's fleeing?
Well, they've sent messengers, or like, if it happened in one city, would anybody from that city come and like testify? Or like, are they just sending are they only hearing the one who?
I don't know for certain how that would work, but what I do know is that the cities of refuge were Levitical cities. So they have Levites stationed there who can be coordinating with, back at, you know, the high priest. I don't know exactly how that would work, details wise, but it is a Levitical city, so you do have that on your side. You have Levites stationed there.
And lie detector tests.
What did you say?
And lie detector tests.
Lie detector test, yes, the old fashioned ones.
Levitical.
Levitical, biblical.
So does that mean there's just the one high priest for all the cities?
There's one high priest who is at the tabernacle. Right now, we have it at Shiloh, which is right here. Later, it gets moved to Jerusalem, but right now it's there. And then, as we'll see in the next chapter, all these Levitical cities, like 48 of them or something like that, that are spread out all over the place. So, let me talk a little bit about Avenger of Blood before we get too far ahead of ourselves here. So, okay, can somebody tell me what's the purpose of these cities of refuge that we can tell so far?
Shelter truly innocent
Yep.
people who would be otherwise harmed.
Yep, exactly. And the interesting thing about it is when you think about, okay, it was an accident, why do they need protecting? And it tells us it's because they need protection against the avenger of blood. The word translated avenge in Hebrew is actually related to the word for redeem, reclaim, or restore. And so this is a person, avenger of blood, is a representative of God and of the family of the person who was killed. And so they are the avenger of blood, redeemed or reclaimed. They're reclaiming the blood of the relative by killing the original bloodshedder. That's the whole idea behind this avenger of blood. And really, blood vengeance is not a new thing. This actually is an ancient custom that goes all the way back to early chapters in Genesis. Genesis 9, God says to Noah and his family right after they get off of the ark. He says, whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed, for in the image of God he made man. So we see that God knows that accidents happen. He also knew that the avenger of blood might set himself against that person, even if it was an accident. They might want to get, do justice by their own hand, even if it was an accident. And so he made a way for that person. He made these cities of refuge. They were established to protect that person that's innocent of murder.
So each family had a self-appointed avenger?
Yeah, I don't know if that's like, everybody has a meeting and, okay, who wants to be the avenger of blood this year, I don't know. Or if in the time of need, somebody steps up and says, I will go, Yeah. We don't have too much more information on the avenger of blood other than, there's a few stories. I didn't get too far into it, but I know there's a few stories about it. But otherwise, we hear that word avenge throughout the Bible. We also hear the word refuge throughout the Bible. The first thing I thought of was, you probably all know this one pretty well, Psalm 46:1. This is David saying, God is my refuge and my strength, a very present help in time of trouble. That's the one that I think of the most. But something you might not have thought of, the author of Hebrews, maybe he had this in mind. He wrote, we who have taken refuge would have strong encouragement to take hold of the hope set before us. And then Paul wrote in Romans 8, therefore there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And I think that's quite appropriate, because if we see these cities of refuge pointing to Christ, then we know that we're the ones running for that refuge, and we need to find that safety and security in Christ. The law is like the avenger of blood. It demands judgment. It demands death, because when we break God's law, we sin. And what are the wages of sin? Death. And so the avenger of blood comes for us all, really. And so Christ invites us to flee to him. Any thoughts on the cities of refuge or the avenger of blood? No hard questions. You can save those to the end when we don't have time. Thank you.
I thought I read in there, just briefly, that if it was murder, the avenger could kill the person that murdered son
Yes.
and his family.
Yes, that is correct. Whether it was in the hands of an avenger of blood or the hands of the whole congregation, the people were to be a part of that judgment. Mhm. Which I think that would have set a pretty powerful message, don't you think?
I don't know why.
Right.
I might as well just run to Egypt.
Right.
Like somewhere else. Because if they find out that I'm lying, I'm dead anyway.
But think about what that would do to you if you were one of the people that had to throw a stone. You know, I remember what it was like to do that. I know what it's like being part of that punishment. I don't want to be on the receiving end of that punishment, you know? I've sent a pretty powerful message, I think. All right, chapter 21. If we don't make it to 22 tonight, that's okay. We'll have read it for nothing, but that's all right. Let's just do our best. 21. This is the Levitical cities. Something I noticed in chapter 21 is that in verse 2, it says that the Levites came to Joshua and said, "Give us the land God commanded for us to have." And this happened with other tribes in previous chapters where they come to Joshua and they're like, "Give us our land, give us our land." And at first I thought it was like impatient people who were like being snotty, I don't know. But actually I realized it's the opposite. Joshua was waiting for them to come to him and to say, "We're ready to take what God is giving us. We're ready to settle. We're ready to do the work that God has given us in that land." And I think that that's kind of cool. When you look at it that way, you just kind of see a different side to it. Remember, there's a difference between owning and possessing. Israel owns the land according to the promise that God gave to them through Abraham. Remember the promises of Abraham? Land, seed, and blessing. And so they are owners. But in order to be possessors, enjoyers of this land, to really reap the fullness of it that God has for them, they need to be willing to step up and say, I'm ready to do what it takes. I'm ready to do the work that God has prepared for me. I'm ready to do that in the land that God has prepared for me. And so that's what we kind of see here. Okay, so then these Levite cities, this is where that TV would have really come in handy because I have a map that has all the Levite cities. But all you really need to know is that they are 48 towns, and they are spread out all over the place. All over the place. I mean, I could do this. I don't know how well that's gonna. Nope, that's Zeke at his birthday. Hold on. Wrong picture. This one. If I lock the screen, that would be better. If you see that, they're spread out all over the place. I know that's really, really hard to see, but they're just spread out all over the place. And I thought the first time I read it, I was like, okay. Do you guys remember the how they were laid out when they were camping? You had the tabernacle right in the middle. Then you had all the tribes of the priests right around the perimeter of it. And then after that, you had all the tribes of Israel. But the Levites were all right there, right closest to the tabernacle. And now it's like the complete opposite. You've got them spread out all over the place. They're not all camped around Shiloh right now. They don't have their own segregated area like everybody else does as far as, you know, a province or a territory. And so I just thought, okay, there's got to be a reason for that. That's so interesting. There's got to be a reason for it. And, well, okay, I'll pose that to you guys. What do you think is the reason for that?
Well, otherwise, they're gonna have, like, the people on the far outskirts are gonna have to, because they make sacrifices.
Only at Shiloh, only at the tabernacle.
That's what I'm, so they have
Not
to
at
come all that
all
way
the other
anyway.
Levitical cities.
But the Levites that aren't at Shiloh, wouldn't they be responsible for other things and taking care of the people in their area?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Because once a year, they probably all come to Shiloh. For the-
3 times, or multiple times a year.
Okay.
There's multiple feasts that they are required to, at least 3 times a year.
Okay.
At least, yes. But yes, you're onto something there. There are other duties that these priests have that they will do in all of their Levitical cities. And if all these Levitical cities are spread out, that means they're blessing all of the people of Israel in all of the territories. No matter where a son of Israel is located, they have access to, maybe not a priest, but a Levite at the very least. If you guys remember, not every Levite is a priest, but every priest is a Levite. Yeah, I know. Hold on. Let's get to this. Okay, so we've got Levi, who is what? Who's Levi?
Jeans. No.
The wrong study, Tracy.
Son of
It's
Jacob,
fashion.
is that what you're asking? Like
But
one of the 12 sons?
One
Is
of
that
the 12
it?
sons,
Yeah.
exactly. So Jacob's son, Levi. Levi had 3 sons, which would be Kohath, Merari, and Gershon, I think.
You know how to pronounce them and spell them.
Well, we're assuming.
She's hoping I won't double check.
Yeah, I know.
And from them, they had families, et cetera, et cetera. From Kohath came Aaron and Moses and Miriam. They're part of Kohath family. I don't know how far down. They're not directly under, like Kohath isn't their dad. I don't know how far down, but from his line, right. So from that, we have Aaron, and only the descendants of Aaron can be priests. All of these other people are still Levites, but only descendants of Aaron are priests. So that's why I say all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we have,
And this is the first time they've all been spread out.
Right.
I mean, the people
right,
of Israel.
yes,
So
huge change.
they
Huge
need
change.
someone
Yeah.
near them.
I mean, I'm sure that when you've got 2 million plate people, camped out, it's gonna take up a large area, but for the most part, they were really close together. They were not spread out like this, to this, magnitude, yeah. Okay, so, I'm not gonna get too deep into what each of the families got. It don't matter. Just know that each division of Levites got, different areas, and, let's see. Kohath, they got Central Hill Country surrounding Jerusalem, which makes sense because they're direct descendants from priests, and so that it makes sense for them to be closest to the tabernacle. Then you've got Gershonites. They are located in Galilee and Bashan, and then Merari is Transjordanian and Zebulun area. So that's kind of how they're. But then all these cities all over the place. So some of the duties that the Levites would have. Actually, we can read Leviticus 10. Tells us a little bit, gives us a little insight. So Leviticus 10, verses 10 and 11. And so as to make a distinction between the holy and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean, and so as to teach the sons of Israel all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them through Moses. So what's 2 things that we can see right there that they do?
I'm behind, where did you read that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Leviticus chapter 10, verses 10 and 11. We're talking about some of the duties that the Levites might have in their cities.
And they teach them the law.
Yep, exactly. They taught children from a young age the law. And Charles, I was actually talking about it with Charles, because I was like, you're really smart, you know more about this than I do, help me. And he was like, yeah, Israel was one of the most educated nations in the world because of this. No other nation was doing this. So I think that that's really cool right there. The other thing it talks about is distinguishing between clean and unclean. If you guys remember from Leviticus, I know it was boring, but try to remember. There was a lot that they did between distinguishing between clean and unclean. I mean, even when it came down to like mold in a house, there was things that the priest had to do for that. And so they have their work cut out for them. They've got a lot to do. They also helped people in their area to follow the law. They helped settle disputes, maybe helped decide what exactly needed to be taken to the high priest, because the high priest wasn't a jog away anymore. He wasn't right down the road. He is all the way in Shiloh, and if you are clear up there, then yeah, that's a bit of a journey. That's a trek. So a priest or a Levite would be able to help you to know, do you really need to take this all the way to the high priest for whatever matter it might be. They would also help in observing the feasts and the Sabbath, the Jubilee year, and all those kinds of things. And then they also took turns in the tabernacle duties. So all the different divisions, the three Kohathites, I don't know if you say Merarites, I'm not really sure what they're called, and then the Gershonites, they all had duties regarding the tabernacle. Some of them helped with taking care of the furnishings inside. Some of them helped with taking care of the outer coverings. You know, they all had their duties, and so they all took turns in tabernacle duties. We actually see this in play with Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist. He is on duty when the angel comes to him and says, you're going to have a son. And that's exactly what's happening there. He's on duty, so that's pretty cool. Some of the other benefits from having the Levites spread out is that no one in Israel is far from the ministry of God's word to them. God's word is life to them. Joshua says to the eastern tribes before they head off, he says, cling to the Lord. Cling to the Lord. He knows that they're going to be separated a bit. There's still priestly cities over there, or Levite cities over there, but they're a little separated because of that river, and so he says, cling to the Lord. And so it really shows how important it was for God's people to have ongoing teaching and explanation of God's word to them. Some of the other things are, Israel was I hope I'm explaining this well. Israel was a come and see nation. Basically, they didn't have missionaries going out like we do today in the church. It was that Israel was meant to be a light to the nations, but as a whole. Other nations were supposed to be attracted because of how Israel conducted themselves. And you can't do that if people on the outskirts aren't doing so well, you know? As a whole, the whole nation as a congregation is supposed to be reflecting God's character, who he is, to be a blessing to the nations. And so it's really interesting because the church is also supposed to be this reflection to other people, but we're not a come and see kind of organization. You know, we don't have all the Christians living together in one nation and saying, okay, if everybody wants to join, that's great. We are to be going out. That was Jesus' command to us, the Great Commission. Go and make disciples of all nations and teach them to observe all that I've commanded you. And so it's very much like the priests, but we're not territory bound in any way. But if you think about it, we talked about this in 1 Peter, how Peter calls us a royal priesthood, if you remember that. And so it's very much similar to that. We'll end chapter 21, and then we can be done, and I'll just pick up 22 next week. Verses 43 to 45. These verses really emphasize the fulfillment of God's promises to Israel. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it, this journey so far with Israel. 400 years of slavery, 40 years of wandering, 7 years of conquest, and there's so much evidence of God's faithfulness to his people throughout that whole time. Just the covenant that God made with Abraham, all the way to the covenant that God made with Moses, and it's all this amazing thing. Bye, Marcia. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you.
It's this amazing. Oh yeah, that's right. Bye, Vicky.
I'm following Marcia.
Yes, you are. Nobody else is allowed to leave that. It's this amazing, how do I put this? There's unconditional and there's conditional. Remember Abraham's covenant with God? It was unconditional because God said, I am and I will. I am your God and I will do all of these things. These are my promises, whether you keep up on your end or not. Now the covenant that God made with Moses, it's kind of based off of that, but there's a conditional aspect to it. He says, yeah, I'm still going to keep all my promises that I have made. However, your enjoyment of these promises depends on you. If you want to truly have the full abundance that you can have in the land, that depends on you. Remember the blessings and the curses that we read about? Where was that? I think that might have been Deuteronomy. Blur a little bit together. But basically it's, if you obey, you will have blessings. And then there's curses for disobedience. And so it's kind of like a relationship between a parent and a child. I am your mother. I will always be your mother. You will always be my child. I will always love you. Nothing is ever going to change that. However, if we want to have a happy, healthy relationship and our life together is good, then we have some things in place, and there's some expectations, and there's some natural consequences in place. That's a very normal thing to have. And God's kind of doing the same thing with Israel, where he's saying, unconditional, I am and I will. And then there's also a conditional aspect off of that says, if, then. If you blank, then blank. And we really see that in Israel's history, the ups and downs of that playing out. Okay, I'll stop there because otherwise I'll just keep going. So, any other questions or thoughts on these two chapters? For next week, if we can we'll do chapter 22, but then we'll finish out the rest of Joshua. 23 and 24 is kind of Joshua's farewell and last days for him. What we are going to do next is a couple of books. So I'll be starting into the busy season for the greenhouse. I didn't want to put that pressure on myself to have plenty prepared. So we're doing a couple of books to get through that time. The first book that we're doing is The Hungry Inherit. I know that sounds really odd. The Hungry Inherit by Zane Hodges. We are working on getting books for everybody. I'll just put that here so you guys can see what that looks like. And then the other one is In Pursuit of Fruit by Lucas Kitchen. So those are the two that we are going to be doing. So for Hungry Inherit, We're working on getting paper copies. We're struggling because we had ordered a bunch and we only got part of the order. And so we've been having a hard time getting in touch with someone to remedy that. So our idea is, in case for some reason the rest of the books don't show up in time, I have been making videos of myself reading them and putting that on YouTube. So you can listen to it. Did you see that already?
Like you were really relaxed.
I was, thank you, yes. I had
Just laying in bed.
I had the recliner out
And I
like
was
this,
like-
and I was just like, okay, here we go.
Okay,
I must let her. So, yeah. Disclaimer on that, on the videos, I don't read, there's tons of like reference notes, like John 10:30, you know, whatever, throughout. I don't do all of that. I just read through. I make plenty of mistakes, and I just keep going. So, not perfect. But then also, I think what Derek were planning on doing was just copying the first chapter of the book, and we'll hand out the books that we have, and then, you know, supplement with just copies that we've made of it, stapled together. So we'll get through until the books arrive. So, but I need to get that to you next week, because then that's what we'll be reading next. Yeah. So, any questions on that?
I'll be gone next week.
Okay. We'll miss you.
Me too. I'll be gone.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were gonna miss her.
And I'm gonna be gone.
Is this your Arizona?
Phoenix,
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Good. All right.
Hopefully it's warmer.
Go, yes.
Here, I should hope so.
It
It should be. I'd be concerned if it was a problem.
Yeah.
I am
Global warming is going back.
a little warm. Arkansas for work.
Can we come with you? Either one of
Actually,
you?
yes. I am driving by myself. The other plan was for me to drive with a van load of men.
Whoa. Pass.
By yourself, sounds.
I'll just teach virtual, I'll be your road trip buddy.
I'm for it.
I like it. All right. Sarah, would you actually mind closing us in prayer? Thank you.
Lord, thank you that we can come together and that we can learn things, and sometimes we don't know what your word is doing in coming to us, and in things that maybe seem obscure, and then other things pop up in the days and weeks that follow. And thank you for giving us this background that helps us to understand the New Testament more, and understand your plan that you've had in place always, and understand your goodness and your preparation for the people of Israel, of your care for them, and your care for us as well. Pray that we would finish this well, and then the change would be a welcome change for Rochelle and the rest of us as we change it up a bit. Thank you for being with us as we